Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us today as a way of getting started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, Brian. So I'm Mark Bowden. I'm an expert in human behavior and body language. And I speak all over the world helping people to stand out, win trust, and gain credibility every time they speak. And I do that through an understanding of nonverbal communication, or what many people call body language. How to use that on purpose to influence and persuade.
Cool. And you probably have an undergraduate degree in this?
There is no undergraduate degree in as far as I know, and I'm pretty well inserted in that world. And I don't
Right.
know any undergraduate degree in body language. I know on some psych degrees that are out there, there are some aspects of body language. Though reports that I get back from students that I know that are on those courses go, "Kai, it's pretty thin." So
Yeah.
we're us in this world of body language, we're pretty specialized
Yeah.
in what we do, and there isn't a great deal of academic study that you can do. There are some very good academic researchers out there in this area, though not yet
Yeah.
transformed into solid degrees. Though I think during the 70s and 80s, and still do, with natural history television, some great broadcasters, some great
Yeah.
writers in that area. And so I was part of being obsessed with animal life and human behavior. And that's where the obsession came. I then went into visual arts and how you tell stories with pictures, still kept this obsession with biology. Then it turned into obsessions with brain science, neurology, neural architecture, how the brain is built. I kind of put all these things together and started looking at influence and persuasion, and how the pictures that we use
Hmm.
influence the core ideas that our brain has, and therefore shapes the world that we see and experience as being true.
That's it. And I have a similar interest more on the sales side and kind of
Hmm.
having these epiphanies that too many people are thinking at a too higher level, professional to professional, and just assuming that our words are going to be interpreted the way we are internalizing them as opposed to how they're internalizing them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you know what you mean.
Of course.
Yeah, like you already know that. Like you just talking to me there, it's like your brain already knew what it meant. The key is do I know what you mean? And
Right.
what's going to happen between you and me? What is going to distort, disrupt that projection, that transference of meaning? Is it going to show up in me as the same meaning? And if it doesn't, why not?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, why not? How can we make sure it's more likely to turn up as the meaning that you intended? Yeah, just like you, I'm obsessed with that. It's fascinating.
Right.
But in fact, it's a miracle that we are even understanding each other right now. I mean,
It,
I know this feels pretty good. Like I totally get you, you totally get me, and we forget that it's a miracle that's going on right now.
it is. And I think we naturally, from our primitive mammal brains, think that other people should be able to just understand us.
Right, because when it works so well.
Yeah.
It works so well.
Well,
And
that's it.
then when it doesn't work, we're just like, oh, okay, well, something's broken. They're probably broken because
Yeah.
it's not me.
But, well, you got, at least, 5, 6 years where you hang around with your parents who,
Yeah,
known you since day one, and their job is to figure out what you want and need, right?
yeah,
Then we
yeah.
go out into the real world where no one cares about what you want and really need. And then you go into the professional world where they definitely don't care or know what you want or need. And our job is to communicate that, not only what we want, but how we can help other people get what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that world of sales, which is really leadership for me, you're trying to change behaviors.
Yes.
They're either they're either not buying, or they're not buying enough, or they're not buying what they should be buying,
Yes.
essentially. So there's a behavioral change. So when it comes to language, both verbal and non-verbal, we have to look at how are we going to use our language in order to change people's behaviors. And
Yeah.
now we've got to understand, well, changing behavior is really hard. That's
It's
really
really
hard
hard.
work. So if you're a salesperson, just understand you're in a change leadership position. You got a tough job.
Yeah, and I think body language can be incredibly powerful in not just expressing, communicating, but in listening.
Absolutely. So we look at other people to work out, do we think they're a good listener?
Yeah.
And if we think they're a good listener, we decide that they listened, whether they did or not. Now, conversely, we look at people to decide, are they a bad listener? And if we perceive through the visual image of them that they're a bad listener, we decide they didn't listen, whether they did or not.
Yeah. And different cultures have different responsibilities between who's responsible for the communication, the sender or the receiver. And in sales, it's always the sender. you know? Whether you accept that or not.
Quite right. I mean, that is a pattern I think that we've got into. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas around the power of the seller and the power of the buyer.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of can flip-flop around quite a bit. I'm sure, many sellers have gone into situations going, you know what, I have a great product, a great service. Like, they would be lucky to get this from me. So we see ourselves as big and powerful, and maybe that's true, or maybe that's false. But from a behavioral point of view, these patterns start playing out around status, around power. But I think the generalization is the power is in the buyer. Because
at the end of the day, right? Yeah, you're not going to refuse them.
Nothing you can do. You can't force me to buy. It's not a monopoly. If it was a monopoly, you'd never need salespeople for a start.
And the other part is that the words are rarely the accurate truth in sales.
Well, words in general are rarely the accurate truth.
Yeah.
Words are reductions, are generalizations. They're a way of creating a sonic indicator, signifier of a thing that is more complex.
Yes.
And so words are let's take this, for example. If we put words together in a certain order, we can get something called metaphor. And metaphor describes something as being something that it definitely is not. Definitely is not.
Explain that.
Right? It's a lie. A metaphor is a lie, essentially.
Okay.
The metaphor is a lie, yet it's a lie that the brain feels very comfortable with. Yeah. So every time we use metaphor, which is not like simile. Simile says it is like something. My mind is like the wind at the moment. Yeah, it suggests kind of a movement, an airiness to it. But if I say my mind is the wind, which is a metaphor, it describes my mind as something that it definitely is not. So let me give you a classic metaphor that's used. The brain is a machine. The brain is a computer. No, it's not. Absolutely isn't. Nothing like one.
No,
definitely not. Yet when I say to people, hey, the brain is a computer, people go, oh, good. Oh, yeah, good. Why? Because they use a computer every day. They're comfortable with that. My language, my metaphor has made them comfortable. Yet my metaphor is an outright falsehood.
Yeah. And is body language consistent across cultures?
No, not at all. So elements are, yes. Elements are, and some elements are not. Let me give you a quick element that is not eye contact. So eye contact is the element that is the same across cultures, because we're all human, is that our eyes look towards the value. They look at things that are valuable. We're attracted to things that could be of benefit to us or of risk to us. Okay. And if it's something of benefit, we'll keep our eyes on it. And if it's something of risk, We'll keep our eyes on it. But ultimately, we're saying what we're looking at has a value higher than all the other stuff around us. Does that make sense?
It does.
So
Yeah.
far? That in a cultural sense, in our Western business culture and Western culture as a whole, we're told as a cultural norm, when you're speaking to somebody, give them good eye contact, look them in the eye. Yeah, and you're nodding your head and saying, yeah, so you recognize that as being true. Now, having said that, in other cultures, if they're of higher status than you, some but not all of the time, you do not look them in the eye. Now, why is that? Why is that? Have they got a different idea of eye contact? No, it's still about value. But what they're saying is lower your eyes. In fact, it's not about don't look them in the eye. It's about lower your eyes and look down so you don't go and look at other things of potential value. It's a way of keeping the hierarchy.
Yes.
It's a way of blinkering yourself to go, don't you dare look at anything else. Because if I look the higher status person in the eye and then suddenly I get attracted to something over there, I've just diminished that high status and our whole society. So this tends to happen, by the way, in organizations and societies where hierarchy is imperative. Without hierarchy, it all falls down. You'll find it a great deal in armed services, where you need to keep hierarchy all the time. You'll find it in societies where they keep getting invaded a lot, and you need the hierarchy always there because you need to be ready for conflict.
Yep.
So there are some human principles around nonverbal communication, and then there's some societal rules which can change, but the principles do not change.
How about when you're being understood or the person's confused? What should you be looking for to see if they're getting it?
Interesting. So that fits quite interestingly into that idea of culture, because there's some cultures that if they don't agree with you or they are confused, they're still going to smile and nod.
Yes. Well, it's polite, and it could just mean I'm bored to death and just keep going. Let's get this over with.
Right. Right. So you've got to know your cultural norms to understand that just because they're smiling and nodding does not mean they get it and they agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the end, our nonverbal language isn't able to communicate the complexities that our verbal language can. So if you want to be safe and not sorry, all you do is ask. You've got to go. So can you repeat back to me what you believe you heard from me?
Okay. And are there myths? Because I've studied neurolinguistics programming at time, and they have the eye charts, where you look is what memory you're accessing, or you're creating an image. Is that true from what you studied?
The studies that I've seen more than 4 studies, good academic studies, which show in tests, no, it's absolutely not true. Now, I worked on neurolinguistic programming. I actually worked with Richard Bandler from a very early age. I know that technology quite well. I think some of it is astonishingly good, and some of it is good for a hobby.
Yeah.
If you want to read very thick books.
Yeah. Having trouble going to sleep.
Yeah. Like anything you want to get in depth in, you'll end up in some weeds that may not be helpful, but may well be enjoyable to mess around in. Okay. When it comes to eye accessing cues, as a generalization for the general people that you see around you, I would not waste your energy looking into those. Okay. Now, if you want to do interview and interrogation or therapy, and you're going to get to really know a client, or you're going to get to hold somebody in a room for a long, long time and really study them, it could be interesting, but now you're working with the individual, not Bandler and Grinder's model around that. Science suggests that the model is inaccurate.
Okay.
Now, do people look in different places to retrieve certain information? Do they have patterns? For sure.
Yeah.
For sure they have patterns. Could that be valuable to you? Could be valuable in the right context. Most people are never in that right context for that to be valuable, I would suggest.
Okay. And I think the number one thing I think salespeople have a problem with is telling whether the other person is sincere or they're just trying to get you out of their office. Like, can we get together in 2 weeks? And they say, yeah, definitely, give me a call. Right. Now, are they going to take that call, or are they not? They're just blowing you up.
Okay. So look, here's what I think traditionally happens here is we're now relying on nonverbal indicators to give us an idea, a probability of if they are telling us the truth or not, if they're going to follow through or not. Well, I just think that's the wrong thing to do. And what you need to do is be a little bit braver. So when the person says, so could we get together in another, so certainly the potential client says, let's get together in another 2 weeks. And you're wondering, is that really going to happen? Yeah. So I'm now going to hold them to account, but with words. And I would say, so how do you want me to make sure that we do this in another couple of weeks? So I get them to create the contract.
Okay, good.
Okay? I get them to make the contract. How do you want me to make sure? The person says, okay, well, email me in a week's time. And I say, here's what I notice about that kind of thing is that often, I might email, but the person doesn't get back. And now, what do you want me to do if I email you and you don't come back to me? Because we know we want to get together in another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
How do you want me? What is the limit that I can go to in terms of haranguing you, badgering you to get this meeting? So I get them to create the noose for their neck. I get them to create, because if they say, look, just hammer on literally come round physically, I say, I will do that.
Okay.
I will do that.
Yeah.
So you're using your verbal skill to get permission to make a deal. Because ultimately you're using your nonverbal to make that very non-confrontational. I'm being very open. I'm being very pleasant with my body language as I say, we are going to make a contract right now that I can bug you for the rest of your life if you don't make this appointment with me.
Yeah.
But I'm not being aggressive. You don't see any aggressive body language, though verbally what's happening there is I'm pinning that person in a corner. But it won't feel like that to them because they're not seeing the nonverbal data for that.
And what do you look for when you're in a one-to-one meeting to see if you have established rapport before you start getting down to business? Sure.
So I'm looking for a certain amount of mirroring or rapport in that they are following me. Look, I'm going to lead them. If I'm selling or leading, I'm going to lead them through the sale, which means I must be followable, first of all, which means I'm going to go for symmetry. I'm going to go for simplicity in my movement. I'm going to go for clarity in my movement. So I notice when I nod my head like this, you're maybe noticing that you're doing the same right now. Yeah. And so when I hit this rhythm like this, and then you reply to me, I hear you hitting the same rhythm as me. So now I'm getting the sense of, okay, we're dancing to the same tune, and I've chosen the tune.
Okay. So you do, or the mirroring is scientifically proven, or is it still?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mirroring. We do mirroring anyway. We don't need to try and do it. We do initial mirroring to work out, is this one of my people or not? Could I be sympathetic with them? Are we simpatico?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we mirror each other to go, how well does this fit? And if the dance is awkward from moment one, we're like, I don't think they're from my land. I don't think they get my situation. And it could be standoffish. But it's very, and usually because their body has not done that dance before.
Yeah.
So it's not used to it. But there's dances that body constantly does. And if I give them that universal dance to do, or a simple one to copy, they're more likely to join in and go, oh, this is one of my people. So I do simple, clear movement that they can easily copy. So that's why I say lead, don't read. I'm not against body language reading. I've written a book on it. So, but all the other 3 books are really about how to lead others with your behavior, not read the behavior. Before you get into trying to read the behavior, get really masterful at leading
the behavior. That's good. And are there any myths that people should be aware of that you've heard over the years that just frustrate you, and that there's almost no truth to them?
Yeah. So look, there's truth, but there's a lot of different truth. So let's take this one first of all, because my guess is everybody attending this recording will have seen the crossed arms.
Yep.
Seen crossed arms, and let me ask you this, Brian. What is your instant kind of gut reaction to my crossed arms?
It would be, I don't agree with you. Here, either against my will, or I'm bored, or I'm not into this.
So you've given me about 3 or 4 different theories of mind about me. Mark is bored. Mark is not into this. Mark is here against his will. But notice all of them default to a negative. Yeah, and you're not different from anybody else out there that I would ask this question of. And I'm going, look, give me your quick reaction to this. Now let's think about it. Could you give me as many reasons as you can think of why a human being crosses their arms?
Oh, to be comfortable, to be warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, comfortable, warm, protective. We make decisions when we cross our arms. Yeah. When we want to think carefully, we cross our arms. When we don't have arm rests to put our arms on, but we want to stay really engaged, we cross our arms. There are so many positive reasons why we cross our arms, but our gut reaction defaults to a negative. That's the way our instinct reads body language. It defaults to negatives. Better to be safe than sorry. When we think about it carefully, we come up with all kinds of positive reasons. Now, I'm in a sales situation, and I say to the potential client, so what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And they go, And so my instinct goes, uh-oh, this is bad news. They're totally closed. They're totally against this. Yeah. So what I do is I don't let them answer. I start trying to support the thing. I go, what do you think of this? And they go, they cross their arms. And I go, well, because, you can see, the value is really there and the price is really, really, and now I'm selling hard. I'm pushing because I've seen closed. And what I've forgotten about is one of the reasons people cross their arms is to control their body so that they've got more neural capacity to make a rational decision and really think about something. Yeah. And I've just stopped that process because I allowed my instinct to default to a negative. Yeah. Now, maybe what I should have done is I should have shown them all the sides. I should have, with my hands, gone, look, there are many different things to think about here. But I just want you to put all of these ideas together and make a clear choice right now. What is your decision around this right now? Yeah. So I've used my linguistic skill and my nonverbal skill to show them all the different ideas, to show them how they all fold together, and that now is the time to make the decision.
And for the
that is leading, not reading.
I like that. And what is the sequence that you would recommend for people to learn about this? Is it what order? How fast?
Yeah. So first of all, look, my first book, Winning Body Language. In fact, if you're in sales, Winning Body Language for Sales Professionals, which is the sales version of this, co-written with Andrew Ford, who really understands way better than I do that process of sales and the many different processes that a sales individual will get into. Start with that because it will really help you with that leading, not reading area, and help you understand how you're going to construct the sales environment in order to get the sales outcome. I would say that outcome is due to environment. Construct the environment of the sale and people move towards the sale. And you are part of the environment. So behave in the right way and people will buy. They'll move into those patterns. Once you've got some real results from that, then get interested in, say, truth and lies, what people are really thinking. Because actually, that's a book on critical thinking disguised as a book on reading body language. And what you need to know, I mean, it's got all the good stuff that you really want on reading body language. It's a hellishly thick book, okay?
Price per pound.
So it's got all the stuff. But the most important thing it has in there is a critical thinking method to think more accurately about yourself and other people. And once you start thinking more accurately about other people, that's extraordinarily powerful because you're not in the dark anymore.
Cool.
You know, you've got more data, more information, more intelligence.
And where should people go to follow you and continue learning from you?
Yeah, sure. So check me out on LinkedIn, Mark Bowden. You'll find me there. Google Mark Bowden and up I'll come, body language expert. Check out my books on Amazon. Find my company at truthplane.com, TRUTHPLANE, truthplane.com.